This episode of Archispeak is sponsored by Arcat. And Arcat knows we're all very busy, right? I'm busy. You guys are busy, right?
Busy.
We're going to talk a little bit about that in this episode, actually. And so, since we're all so busy and sometimes it feels like we could use another hand to help out, I know I could use some of those. Well, would you like someone to help draw CAD details for you? Actually, I do have somebody to do that for me. And how about creating BIM objects? That too. Write specifications? I need somebody to do that. And how about if this quote unquote assistant would do all this work for free? Now that is where it really gets good.
Arcat is your answer, and Arcat has already done all of this work for you. You can search the Arcat libraries for CAD, BIM, specs, catalogs, videos, lots more. All this content created for you, free of charge, and you don't even have to register to get it.
What?
So stop registering on sites for content. Just come to Arcat and find out what you need.
Because Arcat has created a website devoted to you, the building professional. To find out building product information fast and hassle-free, check out Arcat today at arcat.com and ring in the new year with new you at arcat.com.
Welcome to Archispeak, the podcast that talks about what it's like to work in the profession of architecture.
Welcome to episode 132 of the Archispeak podcast. I'm Neil Pan.
I'm Evan Troxel. He's gone. He isn't even
And there goes Cormac Phelan.
You there? Hello?
Are you back, sir?
No.
He did the intro. I said my name, and then like your bubble disappeared from Skype.
Like right on cue. Want to try that again?
Let's do it.
And I'm Cormac Phelan here. Let's patch it all together.
All right. 132. Welcome to episode 132 of the Archispeak podcast. I'm Neil Pan.
I'm Evan Troxel.
And I'm Cormac Phelan.
Hey Cormac, how's that? What are they calling this thing?
The bomb Cyclone.
How's that bomb Cyclone working out?
Dude, it's the bomb.
How was it working out yesterday?
Well, when we were supposed to be recording and
Yes.
I had no power because of high winds and it was really, really cold.
Yeah, that part.
No, it was great.
It's not cold there. It's going to be cold in New Hampshire.
Oh, my Lord. So, yeah.
Update us, because I'm sitting here in a t-shirt and shorts.
So if you were in New Hampshire right now, according to the New York Times pop-up that I just received, there is going to be wind chills of up to negative 100. Not a typo, negative 100 degrees. That is no copyright infringement intended for Mr. Marin's show. What the...
Yeah, seriously.
It means negative 100.
So when this kind of thing happens, is there like a get out of town, everybody just go somewhere else, or is it everybody hunker down and stay?
People probably sit around. It's like, what are y'all bitching about?
We gotta have something to sell T-shirts.
Exactly.
I survived.
I survived my eyes freezing open.
Yeah, it's kind of ridiculous.
Yeah. I mean, and here I'm complaining because our wind chills are, in like the negative teens. This morning we woke up and it was like -9, and we had a late start for the kids and all that other stuff. And people are like, haha, -9, that's nothing. I have a negative 100.
Jeez.
I'll see your negative 100 and raise you.
Yeah. Well, we've had an unusually warm winter so far, so I feel like it's got to swing the other direction sometime soon. Because it's been in the 70s, I mean, during the 80s during the day. It's still really warm, unusually warm for this time of year here.
and it's
You there?
nothing.
There you are.
Know, the weather is just really wacky. It's very unusual. I mean, I've got family and friends from Florida who are posting. In this is Florida when normally you have like maybe a light jacket or something in the evening time, and that's to signify winter. It's winter when people are still wearing shorts, but maybe they switch to a closed-toed shoe and, they have a jacket on. No, people are like bundling up because it's 25 degrees, and that's pretty cold.
Yeah.
And this is Florida. And I don't know if you guys have looked at a map, but there's wind coming off of the Gulf of Mexico and the Atlantic Ocean that probably doesn't help anything. So, to all my friends in Florida, stay strong. To all my friends in New Hampshire, dude, seriously, go to Florida.
Yeah.
It may be 20.
Move.
It may be 25, but at least you're going to be in a heat wave in comparison to what you're in.
Yeah, geez. Come visit us over here in California.
Yeah.
So what's it been like coming back to work this week for you guys?
Oh man, you know the drill.
We don't want to talk about that, do we?
Tons and tons of emails, and just we submitted an early, as we said in the last show, submitted an early release package that was in for permitting. So we're starting to get our first rounds of permit comments. Starting to get comments back from contractors that are going out for early bidding packages and things like that. And it's fun and excitement because there's just, you always say, I've got to get away, I've got to at least have some break. But when you come back that you're going to be hit with
avalanche,
so much stuff.
Yep. Yeah, it's kind of information overload, right? It's one of those things where you're just processing tons and tons of information. You're filing it, you're responding to it, you're saving some for later, you're putting it all in the right place. And that just takes a long time. There's so much information that you've got to wrangle nowadays. I think that's one of the big burdens of, you feel busy, but you're not doing anything. And I think that's a real... You can't hear me? Hello? Yeah.
I can hear you.
Having an issue with Skype tonight.
Yeah, I can hear you now.
Okay.
It's gonna...
Well, I was just saying that I feel like wrangling information has become a real burden. There's just so much stuff to figure out what to do with it that you feel busy, but you're not really accomplishing anything.
Right. Although, to amplify or assist, shall I say, in me unburying myself from all the emails and all the requests of information and everything else. You got the obligatory, hey, let's have a 3, 4, or 5 hour conference call.
Yeah.
You're like, well, that'll help me get on, out from under all of this stuff.
So I hope you're able to do that well on speakerphone.
Multitask. Are you good at multitasking?
Thankfully, I've got a headset on, and every one of us are on mute until we have to say something. And, there's that little tape delay of like, oh, sorry, I was on mute. And
yeah. Oh, man. Our conference calls just always a total nightmare. They totally are. There's just not... It's like you're talking on walkie-talkies that are out of range. It's so terrible. And I think the same thing about like cell phone in general. It's just not reliable at all. Conference calls are terrible.
Well, the great thing about our conference calls, and I say great, facetiously, of course, is the fact that, these are, whether they're Skype or GoTo meetings or whatever, WebEx meetings. And sure enough, half the people can't see things. You're trying to use visual aids, and they're like, it's not loading. Wait, hold on. I see a spinning wheel. Wait.
People who
Wait.
are muted are the ones who should be talking.
Yeah.
People who need to mute are the ones with all the background noise.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's always
You hear that?
there's lots of cluelessness going on with this stuff.
You hear people who apparently are either sitting next to like the, because I know where a lot of the people that I'm having conference calls with are sitting, because I've been in the room with them before, and I know they've got like that little like phone base in the middle of the thing, but all you can hear is this, and you're just like, what are I mean,
Someone needs to mute.
yeah, it's just like, what is all of that going on? Why is that noise? Like, can you? It's like, and then there's that one person,
Mouth breather.
and he's just like, whoever's breathing really loud, can you please put your phone on mute? Nope, you're not it.
Wow.
Keep muting.
No.
Somebody will get. Oh, okay, yeah, that's it. Thank goodness. And then that's the person that you actually want to talk about. Like, dang it.
Wow.
Yeah, I just thought I'd throw that out there because this doesn't work. Somebody save us from this.
Yeah. In here all the while we're having what most people may not know right now is we're all on Skype at different locations, at least that part you probably do know. But we're having all sorts of interesting technical difficulties with weather-related things or just Skype-related things, and
Yeah, internet connection stuff.
it's been interesting.
Yeah, we joke because we know, right? Like every time we open Skype, it sets different audio settings up. We have different inputs, different outputs. It doesn't ever remember anything you did the last time. So
Yeah,
it's a
sometimes
joke.
it forgets that you have a microphone plugged in and you want to use that microphone, but it decides to use the built-in computer microphone.
And you don't notice until
And
an hour later.
Or you don't notice it until the episode comes out, and all I'm thinking to myself is, what the hell's wrong with my audio?
Yeah.
Well, guys, I solved the being buried part of coming back from vacation.
Just delete all.
No, I actually worked the last 2 days of the year. on my
Shameful,
vacation.
Neil.
So
Shameful.
I came back and I was caught up. So it was
You
nice.
feel good about that?
I don't know. I feel good that at least I could come in to work on Tuesday, first day of the year, first work day of the year, and
Actually do some work.
Well, at least I was caught up, right? I wasn't like having to spend a half a day or a day trying to catch up on the 500 emails that came in between Christmas and New Year's or something like that. I don't know. That's maybe not the best way to do it, but it also gave us a chance when things were a little bit slow to clean up our area, get organized and get set for the oncoming onslaught.
Yeah.
Right.
Get ready to mess it up again.
That is 2018.
Yeah.
Yes.
2018 onslaught.
Yeah.
It's funny.
Sharknado.
I was impressed with the volume of emails that I had coming from people who all said and had out of office replies set on theirs, but yet they didn't seem like they were out of office because I was getting hit with all sorts of stuff. And, so it was just kind of interesting. It's like, wait, you're not even supposed to be in the office this week, and I've got 20 emails from you, and neither are you or you or you. So
Right.
I don't bother to set out of office. Forget it. If I'm not there, I'm not going to reply. You don't need to know.
well,
Yeah. It's a courtesy.
yeah, we do it as a courtesy. And
It just means don't expect much.
I said it because for once, I actually won't be checking email.
That's good. So what'd you do? Did you turn off notifications? Did you turn off the app? What'd you do?
I just turned off. I mean, I don't have notifications
stopped
for
checking?
emails. So
Yeah, me either.
I only have manual push for the emails. So like, I actually have to go into the app for it to check emails. And thankfully, I rarely went into the app, which was good. other than to find, where was I know I have a discount email from the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Where is that? Because that's where I went. One of many places.
Yeah, you guys had a busy trip, so did we.
Yeah, it seemed like everywhere we drove, it just kept getting colder and colder and colder.
Yeah, I thought I kind of made out a Rock and Roll Hall of Fame building in that photo. It was tough, though. It was like one of those 3D pictures you got to stare at and cross your eyes, and then it pops out at you.
It was so funny, too, because here I am. I dropped, my wife and kids off at the front door, and I'm like, well, I think I see some parking down there. Some of their parking lots were closed because they were all snowed over. And so I drove. And if anybody's familiar with the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, there's like the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Then a little bit more towards, I'm assuming, the west is the some science center, and then the Bengal Stadium, or not Bengal Stadium, Brown Stadium, whatever. It's Ohio. Sorry.
Go Sports.
And anyway, and I just kept getting closer and closer to the stadium. I'm like, it's snowing harder and harder, and I've got to walk through all of this to go and get them, or at least to go into it. And I'm wearing a black jacket that was white by the time I got into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. And got to tell you, I had a blast. Great installations. All of the music kind of bring you back to those periods of time when you first heard it and all that other stuff. And that's what I really loved about it. But to me, the architecture didn't really hold up. It seems very dated. It because it was, it's got this triangular glass facade, but the triangular glass was supported by really heavy structural, steel tubing. But it was just very heavy and oversized, and, going through exercises where I was doing very similar things and trying to find the right mixture of strength and, like vibration resistance and all these other things, and keep it as small as possible. I was just thinking to myself, these like unnecessarily large elements. But who am I?
Yeah.
I'm not paying.
You're not the architect of that building.
No.
So was that the highlight of the trip there, or where was it?
Highlight of the trip was the Christmas Story house. Come on.
Oh, really?
Man. Heck yeah. My kids got to go. Have either of you seen the movie?
No.
Wow. Oh. Okay.
Should we stop right now?
I'm hanging up on you guys.
Go watch it.
Well, anyway, the Christmas Story movie, for those who've actually seen it, will know that there's, a couple of like really cool scenes where he's got to like wash his mouth out with soap, or at least, bite down on soap. And so they literally actually have, for those people, they have a bar of soap out for you to be that one person on the tour to put a bar of soap in your mouth. And dare I say, it was my son.
Of course it was.
So, look in the show notes, because you'll have a picture of my son with a bar of soap in his mouth. Normally doesn't need to, but I'm sure he probably did something to deserve soap in his mouth.
Yeah. So that was the highlight. That's a big trip that you did there. I'm looking on the map right now just to kind of see how far you drove.
It was
a long way.
Yeah, it was actually fun. It was just a lot of, it was just we decided we had initially had a trip planned for Maine, and I was reading something where they're like, well, we average, like 3 to 4 feet of snow during this period of time. I'm like, my truck's not ready for that. My truck didn't seem ready for the trip that I took, but apparently Maine was a little bit cold, or a little bit warmer than where I was at, because it went from, like the teens where we were at to the single digits in Pittsburgh, and then the single digits to the negative digits in Cleveland, and then the double negative digits in Detroit. When we wake up in normal air temperature, not wind chill, but normal air temperature, is 8 to 12 below. And then wind chill is like 20 below. And you're like, nah, see, I'm just going to stay inside.
Oh, man.
My blood's thinned.
Don't look at my Instagram feed because it's all sun and palm trees.
I saw it. It's mostly palm trees. And I think, me personally,
I was out in Palm Springs. So.
I actually think you were doing that on purpose.
Of course.
It felt rather hurtful.
And it was meant that way.
It's very rude. Yeah.
It was. In fact, I believe that was probably one of the most commented words on your thing was rude.
Yeah. Yeah. It's not always like this, but when it is, man, I relish it.
Yeah, that had to be awesome though, and honestly, it's only out of pure jealousy. Pure
well,
jealousy.
we had a great time, and I can't believe the weather that we've had. I mean, I've never seen so many people out in the desert either, but it wasn't too bad. It was just hard getting out there. We did a bunch of really cool stuff, and we went to slot canyons, and we went to these two places on the Salton Sea called Salvation Mountain and East Jesus.
Jesus.
Yeah, and I mean, they're kind of like, desert cultural art installation places. Mm-hmm. Really, really cool. Really interesting.
I saw those.
Definitely worth if you're ever out in the area. I know that a bunch of people had commented on my posts on Instagram that, these are on my list. I got to go there. They're definitely worth seeing and experiencing. So that was cool. We went out to this old pioneer town, and we went to Joshua Tree and hung out, and we saw found a bunch of petroglyphs out there that on a hike we'd never been on. And so it's just, we had a great time. And then we came back New Year's Eve, and then I drove back out to Joshua Tree the next day to go climbing. So we just been very busy out in the desert and enjoying the weather while we can, because I'm sure it won't stay like this for long. But it's been great. It was a fantastic trip. So check out my Instagram if you want to see the photos from our little getaway there. It was fun.
Other than working the last 2 days, what'd you do, Neil?
I'd rather not say what I did the other 2 days. It's kind of personal.
Wow.
It's something nobody really needs to know about. So we'll skip that part and move on to how's the beginning of 2018 going for you?
Wait, hold on.
Oh, man.
Turn your head and cough.
No, it wasn't that one. Wasn't that one. We don't need to talk about that, okay? We can move on. Really? You had to bring that up.
I didn't bring it up. I honestly completely forgot.
Okay, fair enough. Yeah,
it's not one of those things you hang on to.
Yeah, no, not at all.
Yeah.
No.
I started class today. I mean, that was
Professor
a
Troxel.
rush. Yeah, a rush all at the end of this week. Just getting everything prepped for the first week of class. And
so, explain to us your syllabus.
Oh man, yeah. There's a bunch of parts in the syllabus that nobody cares about. You just skip over those and go to the important stuff. But it was interesting.
Teaching?
What's your class?
Same thing as last time. It's emerging technology in architecture and digital tools, things like that. So we talked about this. I can't remember the episode number. Maybe you look it up and throw it in the show notes. But it's similar. It's a lecture class, and it's all of the. It's kind of interesting that there are jobs in architecture that didn't exist even 3 years ago.
Like what?
And there's so many things with like
technology,
reality capture, photogrammetry. There's so much coding and scripting going on now.
What?
Photogrammetry. You don't know what that is?
No. Educate
Neil, come on. Looks like you need to go back to school.
You know what?
into
I've
real Cal
forgotten more
Poly.
shit than most people
All right,
know.
all right, Cormac.
So,
So
come on.
what is it?
And to go to a real Cal Poly.
Oh, shut the hell up.
Yeah. Yeah, so photogrammetry is when basically in this context it's a bunch of photos taken by drones for aerial survey kind of stuff, and then they use the photos to basically
Create a model.
Create a model from
okay.
photos.
Yeah,
It
we've
creates a
done that.
point cloud by comparing different images to each other, and they can measure distance off of it. So and then you get a lot of side benefits from it too. I mean, it's pretty amazing what you can pull from these.
We're
these
actually
data sets
doing
now.
that in our office.
Actually,
You
right.
guys have your own drone, and your guys are doing it. That's cool.
Yep.
You guys are doing that? Oh, that's cool.
So that's one of those jobs, right?
I
that
didn't know that
exist.
was what it was called, so.
That's
that's
the
all.
process. Yeah, that's that process.
Okay. I learned something new.
Yeah, so I mean that's one of the things. I mean, but that's just a really good example of work that in our field that did not exist, 5 years ago.
Now, are you going to be taking students out and trying to do things like that?
We actually,
Or-
I have a guy come in and we fly the drone and we do it right there on the spot. So the
That's cool.
students, we just walk outside the classroom and we go. It's really fun. So that's one example. We're doing VR. Lots of new stuff has happened in the last year, even in VR with multi-person meeting in the model, stuff like that. Lots of advances with the software. Not so much the hardware. I mean, none of the headsets have really been updated, but they're really pushing the software and pushing the interactivity with VR. So that's kind of cool. We're going to do digital fabrication, so straight to the models, straight to fabrication. So no drawings needed. You just build right off the model. So lots of topics like that where you could find something you're really passionate about or interested in and instantly be valuable to a firm if you have those kinds of technical skills, and all enabled through technology. So it's really kind of eye-opening, I think, because when we all went to school, and even now, especially at this school, everybody's trained to be a designer, or at least understand how to think and solve problems like a designer. And there's basically designers, and we know that there's going to be project managers, but what we don't really focus on is all the other things that you could do. And so my class is just really focusing in on what you can do through technology, let alone all the other jobs that are out there in our field that could be had if you're aware of it and if you have a passion for a certain niche within the field. So today was the first day of class for me, and it's just once a week. But next year, everything gets kind of turned over on its head because they're moving into the semester system. They've been on quarters forever, so that's going to change everything.
I remember when that happened for us, and it was an interesting change because it seemed like more work and less time, even though there was more time. But they basically try to jam 2 quarters worth of work in one semester.
Yeah, I've taught on the semester system before at the local community college, and I felt like I had way more time than I needed. I almost didn't know what to do with us because it was so different than the quarter system.
Yeah.
And I taught in the quarter system for 10 years, and I always felt like I'm
always rushed.
holding my breath, Yeah, exactly. And it's like you're just preparing, and then all of a sudden it's over. And in the semester system, it was so different than that. I really felt like we had the time to learn things and go over things in class. So it just depends on the class, I'm sure. But it also, it's going to be interesting to see how the design classes handle the shift.
So
because everything in our field is deadline driven, and I don't, so maybe they will do what you're saying and cram more projects into one class.
It's either that or pace them a little bit differently so that you can get different aspects of the project, and maybe it is something that you start to do like integrated design where maybe like for these design classes that you actually are designing something and implementing, say, VR or something like that as part of the assignment. I don't know.
Some of the neat things I've seen them do, they actually engage with the structural engineering students, and they have a design studio where they design a bridge, and then they have to build part of it, and the structural engineers do all the calcs, and they actually have to build it and prove that it'll stand before they build it. It's pretty neat. There's some other neat little cohorts that are created between different disciplines.
We did that a lot. We had a lot of cross pollination between both structural as well as our construction management program.
Yeah.
And so, like our concrete, we would actually do concrete projects where we would go to a local. I remember actually building retaining walls and bending and tying rebar for like days, and then helping build the formwork for all of this stuff, and those were always fun. But hell, I remember our bridge project where we had to design it and then just see how many bricks it would hold up before it crushed, and whoever held more bricks.
Oh yeah. We've done that too.
Love those. Those are fun.
There's also one where the students have
like
they have to design a skyscraper, and then they have to design it so that it becomes a model rocket, and they go launch them out into the fields at the very last day of class, which is kind of cool.
Is this being taught by Professor Optimus Prime?
It's a race car enthusiast and our structures professor, so pretty cool. And there's another class where they're doing Mars shelters, and it's a 4th year, 5th year studio collaboration. So that'll be interesting, and they're actually going to build a part of it full scale. So some design build going on. That'll be pretty fun.
I see some practical applications for that with, if you're doing something like that, something that needs to be collapsible and reconfigurable and everything else and durable. That could also translate to, like FEMA type shelters or, emergency shelters and things like that. So that would be an interesting, at the end, this is what you can really do with this thing.
Yeah.
You're designing it for the extreme, but then you're also can design it for the practical.
And so one of the studios is really focusing on the structure, and the 5th year studio is going to be working on the deployment of the structure. So robotics, Arduino type stuff, and kind of programming that so that it kind of self builds. I don't know. We'll see what happens. We'll see. It's pretty ambitious, so we'll see what happens.
Sounds pretty damn cool, actually.
Yeah. And then probably the most practical one that I heard, which is kind of cool. This is actually a 2-quarter class, so it'll take these last 2 quarters where 1 quarter they do kind of schematic design level of the project, and then the next quarter they keep working on the same project and take it through DD. So that's kind of a nice thing to have in your portfolio at the end of the year. So that I think those are 3rd year students. So by the end of 3rd year, when they're going out and looking for an internship, they're going to have a really good piece to show there that they can actually be valuable to a firm right away.
That's cool. So, that's good. Because there is, obviously, you've heard my soapbox speeches countless thousands of times, but, that gap between education and the profession, things like that, and really even just like a lot of the different classes that you've talked about, and even your class, are ways to start bridging those gaps. And, having kids come out of school with a lot of this valuable, cutting edge technology, kind of some, firsthand experience with it to help, you were talking about being a value to the firm, having them come in and be able to right out of the bat, start showing people their value by showing them how to use VR or showing how to use all of this different equipment that is really the next iteration of architecture.
Yeah.
So
stop avoiding it.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's been my week. I mean, it's just been kind of a furious
like a great week.
Rush to the week. I'm kind of glad it's over though. So looking forward to the weekend here for sure. I still got to take down the Christmas tree, take down the Christmas lights. I got put in a dishwasher. Like I texted you guys today. I had to clean the drain out at the kitchen. I had to go rent a snake at like a big one, a big power. Oh, it's just terrible. Home ownership. Ugh.
Yeah.
It's the worst.
Yeah.
It's the worst. Oh man. So yeah, doing some minor remodeling in the kitchen, and the sink backs up like once a year because our house is 70 years old. So it's just one of those things that just never stops. And you end up spending your weekend doing stuff that you really don't want to do. So
Hey, so I got a question for you guys. So as we head into 2018, now, Evan, I know you've talked a little bit about this, and maybe you guys did this at the end of last year. Cormac, I don't know if if you've talked about this before, but any sort of strategic planning for the year? Is it something you guys, your offices have done, or something? I'm curious what our listeners do too, like if they're solo or if they work in a firm, do they do any sort of strategic planning for 2018 or the year ahead, whatever year it might be? And what that process is. I'm just kind of curious what your guys' experience is first.
I can't really speak to the process because I'm not part of it yet, but we do every year, and I don't know if it starts as early as the beginning of the fourth quarter, but we start doing our business planning and strategic planning for the coming year at the end of the year. And there's been a lot of scurrying around, and then more at my level, we're just strategic planning for projects and staffing them and things like that. But now, they are going pretty crazy, and so I think the fruits of all those labors will be coming in, and we're going to be talking about those in our upcoming, which is next week actually, office meeting, where we usually go over the business plan and everything else for the coming year, kind of talk about what all the projects are on the horizon and how everybody can get involved with business development and things like that. So yeah, we get actively involved, just the firm has been a scurry.
Yeah, our firm has been actively pursuing strategic planning for the last year, and it's really through 2020. So it's more than just the 1 year thing. And a lot of the things that I kind of went through last episode are based on goals that are identified within that strategic plan, because I'm directly tied into the technology goal for our strategic plan. We have like 7 different goals, and they're all very ambitious. Lots of people working on lots of different things to move the company forward. And so the technology one is obviously very specific to technology, but we've got a lot of R&D going on. We're working on a lot of innovative stuff, a lot of design technology stuff, the tech conferences that I've talked about before. There's just a lot of moving parts, and then there's a lot of coordination between the different ones. So kind of like what Cormac was saying, it's moving kind of furiously along, and it's just one of those things where when projects come in and people get busy on this stuff, it's hard to balance all that, I think. And so because everybody wants to do a good job at everything, so it's just one of those things that requires a lot of focus, a lot of balance, and just clear goals. Because if you don't have that clarity, it's really hard to figure out where you're going, right? So I'm kind of looking at the giant planner document that we have right now, and there's so many things. And what's nice is you get to see what everybody's working on in there if you're a part of the team. So there's a lot of transparency going on there, because if you don't do that, then you can't find those different synergies or collaborations that could happen to help everybody else accomplish their goal if you're already working on something that has similar ties or whatever. So, I mean, I can't go too detailed into it, but it's just one of those things that, yeah, it's a huge focus. And I think just in my own research that I've been doing regarding technology, I mean, if you're not actively pursuing what's next, you're going to be obsolete. And I keep reading that over and over again. If you're not a company who's embraced technology, if you're not spending money on R&D and innovation, in this AEC realm, I mean, companies typically spend about 1% of their revenue on R&D, which is nothing. And we are construction, the whole AEC industry as a whole, with construction as the main focus, is one of the least innovative fields in the whole workforce that's out there. And you can see all the construction waste. You can see how the projects take forever, and there's big change orders, and there's all of this stuff that could be innovated on. And I think that's why you see some tech companies like Google trying to get in on this. I mean, I've read story after story about they're trying to make inroads into this field because they see so much raw potential to innovate here. That I think it's going to put a lot of architects out of business, because these other tech companies are going to come in and eat their lunch, because they're going to be able to, they've done it. They've done huge projects with lots of people, and they've got lots of money to throw behind it. And architects in general, I think, are so, they're always really hesitant. I mean, we get hit so hard when a recession comes that it takes a long time for us to recover, and it takes us a long time to start spending money on this kind of thing. And then all of a sudden another one hits, and those are the first things to get thrown off the table, right? Because we just got to make the baseline. We just got to make things work. We just have to power through this. So I think it's a tough cycle for us to be in, and it's a tough cycle for us to break because of the way we think and the way we approach this stuff. We get really hurt in recessions, and it takes us a long time to recover. And these other companies just keep plowing through and plowing ahead, and they've got lots of investment money. So they're willing to take more risks than we are. So something we really have to watch out for. And so I'm really happy with the progress that's being made within our company to take strategic planning seriously. It's a very interesting topic. Too much.
Now, hey, no. So on that, are people assigned responsibilities to champion it? That's a good word, champion it.
Totally. Yeah. It wouldn't happen if you didn't have, I mean, we've talked about goals in the past. Like, if you don't have a deadline, a budget, and a person responsible, it's not going to happen. Right.
Right.
So yeah, you've got to, as far as I'm concerned, you have to do that. So yeah, I'm looking right now at this giant, sheet, and there's somebody's name attached to every single goal. Yeah.
I mean, there's a enormous matrix within the firm, and even if you aren't necessarily working within, the forecasting and planning of all of that, your name is it's attached to some goal that you're going to be a part of, whether it's project specific or something with business development or something like that. But overall, yeah, we've got like a slew of management, type people who have worked their way into management positions and are, the ones who are basically kind of spearheading all of these things.
Yeah, and I would say that usually the people who have their name attached to these goals are not actually responsible for doing the work, but they're just responsible for making it happen. So typically, they might not even be the right person for that type of job, but they're the ones who have the clout or the seniority or whatever it is, the position, to go out, find the right people, and then make sure that it actually happens, and then
right,
and then report back. So you can't make it too big of a group, otherwise it gets unwieldy, right? So
and you never
you
get anything done.
Yeah, you got to keep that chain of command, I guess, just because you've got to be able to manage that process, and less heads are better than more heads in that regard. But yeah, Neil, I mean, if you don't have a name on it, I don't see how it could be a thing, right? If nobody's willing to take responsibility to make it happen, then I don't see how it has any chance.
Right. Well, the reason I bring up that subject is in a couple of weeks I'm been invited to participate in our company-wide, somewhat company-wide sort of strategic planning day. And this is kind of, I believe, I participated in something like this many years ago when I was with the firm, and this time I think it's a little bit different, just because of the way this firm is structured these days compared to how it was 15 years ago. And so I'm looking forward to it. So I was just curious if your firms are, I figured they kind of did something like this, but I think most larger firms have to do something like this. And then I think for our listeners that may not be part of big firms, may have just a small firm, I encourage them to write us or tweet us and let us know kind of what their method or procedure that they go about to do that. Because I think it's something that, especially in a smaller firm, you're so caught up in probably trying to just get the jobs done that you're just trying to keep up. And so it's really hard to do that R&D or to think ahead about how do I improve either my processes, or how do I improve my business development, and what do I need to do to be better, right? Or what sort of strategic plan am I going to grow this year? Am I going to hire somebody? And what do I need to do to support that? And so, I mean, I'm curious what our listeners, what they do for this process.
Yeah, I mean, take the Architecture 2030 challenge for an example, right? I don't know if you guys' firms have signed up to.
Oh yeah.
So if you're going to design net zero buildings, by every building that you do by 2030 is going to be net zero. Is that right?
That's it.
That's yeah.
So how are you going to get there, right? If you're busy just making sure the jobs are happening, and I mean, you've got to have that strategic plan to create the ramp that gets you to 2030, right? 2030 is not far away. It's 12 years away.
Right.
And how many net zero buildings are you doing right now, right? To be at 100% in 12 years. I mean, we already know how long these projects take to do, right?
Yeah.
A lot of the projects that we do take 3 to 5 years. So that's only about 3 cycles of projects to get to that point, if you're looking at that size of a project. But the other kind of catch-22 part of this is, if you get to that point and you don't have net zero buildings under your belt, no one will hire you to do their project because you don't have any experience doing those, right?
Right.
The firms that do have the experience doing those are going to have a much better chance at getting those projects.
Well,
so it's an interesting. That's just an example of the kind of strategic planning, and for one specific topic.
Well, I mean, not to get into the weeds of 2030 challenge, and but you also have, as part of that challenge, is not only to change the thinking within the firm and do that incremental, and this should have started 12 years ago or whenever the 2030 challenge started, is to really start to aggressively think about how you design your buildings and how you are going to ramp up, as you were saying, to get to that net zero. I mean, that's a challenge just within itself, to talk about how the firm itself is going to do it.
You got to retool. I mean, there's so many things.
But you also have to retool your clients.
Yeah.
Because these clients don't understand why they would want to pay extra money for a net zero building, and it really is your responsibility to do that. A lot of times they are trying to get every square foot or every level of finish or whatever out of their established budget. And when you're telling them, well, you can't do that because you need to do this, and they're like, well, why do we need to do this? Because that's, that's performing far more than, our other buildings, or, we've never done this before, we don't understand how to maintain it, or things like that. There are those levels of challenges that you've got to get as well. And so it's interesting. And like I said, I don't want to get into the weeds of this because it's a topic all in itself, but you've got 2 levels of education that you need to do: your staff, your firm, and your clients. And it's been posing a challenge because it's something that we are actively doing. We have sustainability director, within our firm that helps basically keep all projects kind of on target. We shoot for, whether it's LEED certified or things like that. But then what we're trying to do is do better than that. And, there's the whole different strategy for what we're trying to do. And it's, it's an interesting challenge. So that might be something we talk about later on.
Yeah, and isn't it even, Neil, I think in California, it's going to push us to have all that for new commercial construction by 2020, I believe.
No, it's 2030 for commercial construction. I'm just looking this up, actually, because I was going to mention it.
Thank you. Because I sound really stupid right now.
No. In California, it's all commercial construction by 2030, net zero, and by 2020, it's all residential.
Oh, that's
new
right.
residential construction, net zero by 2020
per code.
That's 2 years from now per
and
code.
That's beautiful. And see, that's actually what code needs to be doing, is pushing things like that. So you don't have to, educate. Although
you still have to educate.
Here's the rules.
Well, you have to, and that's actually, an interesting thing is, we were having this discussion with one of our clients, and we were talking to them about, well, they were asking about lighting control and daylighting and all of this other stuff, and they were asking why we were doing it. And current code actually requires the level that we were going after, which was something that was, not necessarily stuff that they've done in the past.
Right.
And we had to go through this whole, spiel to tell them about it. And they were willing and accepting, but they just needed to know that this is the way things are going and happening. Yeah. And I think states, both, at the state level and the national level, I really think that we need to get really Johnny on the spot for all of these adoptions of these different ASHRAE requirements and things like that to really boost it to net zero. I think, if any, and this isn't a political thing, but if any politician wants to start talking about energy independence for the U.S., we need to move forward with this stuff, and it needs to be mandatory. And it sounds like it's this whole, you're telling us what to do, and you're making things, you're putting all of this stuff on. It's more constraining for the contractor,
Too bad.
Yeah, it might be, but it's better.
Yeah,
it's just better. So,
well, it's where.
Sorry, jump off of my soapbox.
Yeah, there you go. Well, I mean, I agree with you there, but that's the goal here in California. And actually, Arnold Schwarzenegger, when he was governor here, pushed this through. Actually, probably more than 10 years ago now, and
that's great.
Yeah, it's been a long-term goal, and it was certainly an ambitious goal, and it's been. Each code cycle has been tightening the screws a little bit more, and I think it's great. So we'll have some links actually to the California Energy Efficiency Strategic Plan, Zero Net Energy, and the Zero Net Energy for homes in California. I'll put some links in there if people want to read up about how California's action plans are being put into place and such. So if people want to read up on it And I mean, these are things you can do anywhere. You don't have to just do them here in California. And I'm sure we could be schooled by other countries on doing it even better. So
yeah, okay. So
let us know.
Let me ask this real quick question though. So California is pushing where it's going to basically be a code mandate for residential by 2020 and commercial by 2030 to be net zero. Mm-hmm. Do you guys even pursue like LEED certifications for things? I mean,
no.
Isn't that sort of? I was going to say, isn't that
depends on
sort
the
of
client.
Isn't it redundant though? I mean,
no. Well, people like that trophy. They like that badge. They like to show it off. It's something to talk about and brag about and market.
Right.
And all that stuff.
And I don't want to sound anti-LEED or anything, but I honestly think that there's going to be a point in time when LEED should go away, because everything that we do for LEED should just be a no-brainer, should just be standard practice, should be best practices.
But it's different stuff.
It is.
It takes a lot more into account. I shouldn't say more, but different things into account. I mean, it's It's taking transportation into account. It's taking
right.
well-being into account. I mean, it's more than the things that, I shouldn't say more. It's different things than what zero net energy is. Yeah.
Well,
it's different from well building as well. I mean, they're all different. And so I think it really depends on what the client's into, what they're after. A lot of times we see clients who want to pursue the LEED checklist, but they don't want to actually pay for the commissioning and for the certification.
Right.
So they want to know that,
interesting debate.
They want to know that they've achieved it, but they don't want to spend the money. So,
right.
I see that as well.
Yeah. And a lot of times people who do go for the certification, they are looking as either a way to have that badge to say, look at us, our company is a green company, we're sustainable, we believe in that sort of things, and so we wear it on our sleeves, literally. Oh. And then others use it as a marketing tool.
Well, our firm, actually, the building that they bought, when they renovated it, I think we achieved LEED Silver or something on it.
Yeah.
And absolutely, we market that. It's like, yep, we not only do we believe in it, we eat our own dog food, our own building reaches this level, and we know how to do that. And so we market it.
We eat our own dog food.
Isn't that the saying?
I don't think I've ever heard that saying before.
I've heard that.
You've never heard that before?
Yeah, totally.
Eat your own dog food.
How about drink your own Kool-Aid? There you go.
Drink your own Kool-Aid. Yeah,
okay.
That's another one.
That I know.
All right, I'm going to find this. I'm going to put a link in the show notes.
So,
California colloquialisms.
Yeah. Get on the 10.
Look, there it is. Wikipedia, eat your own dog food. There will be a link in the show notes for it.
If it's on Wikipedia, it's got to be true.
No, he said Wikipedia.
Wiki. So one thing that, just to kind of riff on that for a second, is that I definitely noticed a trend a few years ago of less and less people pursuing LEED. But I have to say, recently, we've been completing a lot of LEED projects, and not just like LEED Silver, because I think in California, every building you do now is basically LEED Silver. But a lot of golds and quite a few platinums, and so people are going all the way through with it, and it's a big deal when they do, and it's something that we kind of celebrate, because
and it
is all in this pursuit for the better environment. And I think that it's just interesting to kind of watch the trend graph change over time. I mean, there's definitely been a lot of interest lately, and I would say, it didn't seem like that, at least in my perception, a few years ago. It felt like a lot of clients were saying, and maybe it's just kind of a effect of the recession. When there's less money to go around, people don't spend it on that kind of stuff. But it really depends on the values of the client. But lately, I think just because the economy's good, I think more people maybe are pursuing it. So interesting stuff. Yeah. So all back to that strategic planning. I mean, I don't know how you move the needle if you don't plan. So Neil, it'll be interesting to kind of hear what that's like for you guys. And
I look forward to participating this year.
It's a good way to burn a lot of hours, man, I have to say. So
very true.
That's the hard part, right? Is that everybody's already doing a lot of work, and to pile all that stuff on that is really important for the future of the company. And to create that vision for where things are going, and what you stand for, and why you do what you do, and to be relevant in the future. Those are all important things, but they're probably not as important as doing the work you have. So just figuring out ways to balance that is super key, and creating a level of importance on it and making people accountable for it, so that it actually happens is a trick. I mean, it's one of those things that I think is really tough, and everybody's kind of got to be on the same page. You have to have the same mindset, because if you don't, I mean, there's going to be people most likely who are going to be like, that's BS. I just need to do this. So anyway, I'm interested to hear what you get out of it.
Report back maybe in the next episode or the one after that. We'll touch on it again. We'll revisit it, as they say.
Yeah, cool.
So All right.
Yeah.
Sounds good, man.
All right. Well, hey, let's kick off 2018 and wrap this episode up. First one of 2018.
Consider it kicked.
Sounds good.
Consider it wrapped.
Wrapped? Well, we can't wrap yet.
Put a bow on it.
Till we thank the people that help make this possible. And that person, no, it's not a person, it's company. We want to thank our episode sponsor, Arcat, and remind you to check out all the features they offer over at arcat.com, including, and I want to throw out a mention of their new Revit BIM plugin. So go check that out over at arcat.com and thank them for sponsoring this episode of Archispeak. And do you want more Archispeak? Of course you do. Visit archispeakpodcast.com where you'll find links to our catalog of episodes. And while there, make sure to sign up to receive our show announcements so you can get all the cool links that we were talking about and learn about net zero and all that stuff. And to find out when the episode goes live with links to everything we mentioned on the show and stay in contact between episodes on our Facebook page. Is feeling kind of lonely over there. People give us some love. And don't forget about the hashtag AskArchispeak. Throw that out there and we'll try and answer your questions for you. You can find links to everything at archispeakpodcast.com. And remember to tell a friend. Stay subscribed and have a good 2018, everybody. And thanks for listening.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Yeah, what they said.
I joined the choir to sing. They're all competing for some other thing. I joined the choir to sing. I joined the choir to sing. They're all competing for some other thing. I joined the choir to sing. Say I eat, breathe, erase my feet, my face, chase the one thing